You know, I've been quiet on this particular subject for quite a while. It's all over the airwaves. It's across different social media platforms. You can't put on a news station without watching it. It's on different newsstands, be it your local news, national newspapers, different magazine articles. The incident that happened in Memphis, Tennessee is by far something that's going to replay in the minds of a lot of people for quite some time. This is no different than what we saw about 30-something years ago with Rodney King. When those officers in Memphis attacked Mr. Nichols, he posed no threat to them. They attacked him like a pack of rabid wild animals and mercilessly beat him until his demise. From my understanding, it started off with him being tasered. After he was tasered, he went down, I'm assuming, then tried to get back up, and then he was attacked again. And of course, across different platforms, be it the news, social media, magazines, newspapers, blogs, vlogs, podcasts, there are talks as to what led to this. There was a rumor that Mr. Nichols was involved with the ex of one of the officers, which has not been proven. And regardless, there was no excuse for this to happen. But I want to talk about one person in particular here, Mr. Jason Whitlock. Jason Whitlock, to me, has always been an entire whole of an ass clown and an ass hat. Those hats he's wearing, those are not fedoras. Those are not baseball caps or anything like that. Those are ass hats that fits him perfectly. For him to go out and say that situations like this is what happens when young men in our community, the black community, are brought up by single women is heinous. I can't even fathom how you coordinate those two together. First of all, that topic shouldn't even come up right now, because right now we should be extending the condolences to the people who lost a son, a brother, a friend. He was a father. I meant a colleague, somebody in the community, a cousin, a grandson, a nephew, an uncle, something. He was something to somebody. So that comment has nothing to do with this subject right here. Jason Whitlock even went on to say that the police department was led by a single black woman, which came out to the fact that she was not single. She's actually married to a retired officer. Also, you can't blame the crime rate on her. I understand when people are in positions of leadership, ultimately they are responsible for things that happen or fail to happen. However, obviously, in just common sense, and anybody with knowledge knows that a police chief cannot be everywhere their officers are at all times. I'm certain she knew what she was getting into when she earned that position. She knew the crime rate in Memphis when she took this job, but I'm positive she didn't expect that something like this would come from her own officers. It's high time that we stop blaming the actions of grown men on whether or not they were brought up in single mother households. Motherfucker, it's wrong to take somebody's life or assault somebody that poses no threat to you, whether you grew up with mama and daddy, whether you grew up with just daddy, and whether you grew up with mama and papa. That's wrong. All right? And I'm going to squash it right here and say this. This whole obsession with blaming single mothers is becoming odd. You got to take some sort of self-accountability and self-responsibility. I don't know where we're getting this from. Would it be ideal that kids grow up in two-parent households? Absolutely. Am I saying those that grow up being raised by one parent are at a disadvantage by those that grow up by being raised by two parents? Absolutely not, because I know plenty of people who are raised by one parent. They're doing well in society, and then there are those who have been brought up by two parents, and you look at them like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, why? We got to stop that. And it's beyond me as to how Jason Whitlock is allowed to get on TV and say what he says. You know, I know exactly why, because, okay, he has that freedom of speech. Fine. He can say whatever he like. But come on, make it make sense. All right? What those officers did was beyond reprehensible, heinous, and disgusting, and they should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. This is not the time to discuss about single motherhood versus being married, or, you know, kids being involved with their fathers or whatnot. That has nothing to do with that. Those officers acted on their own and should be punished on their own to the fullest extent of the law. Right about now, the nation needs to be wrapping their arms around Mr. Nichols' mother and father, and his kid and his kid's mother, because they lost somebody. I don't get it. It's weird. It's odd. It's disgusting. And it's dismissive to the feelings of those that lost somebody. And let me tell you this, fellas. A lot of times, at times, we can become guilty of getting wrapped up in the body of a woman, thinking that she belongs to you. Even though you don't want to be with her, or you both came to understand that the relationship is over with, you have a problem when she moves on, but you can't move on. Excuse me, when she moves on, even though you have moved on. Okay, it doesn't work that way. You need to learn how to channel and control your emotions, or it's going to cost you every time. Guaranteed. There's no ambiguity. There's no going away around it. Even Warren Buffett said something to the degree, if you can't control your emotions, you can't control your money. In this instance, if he couldn't control his emotions, now it's landing him potentially life in prison, where I believe he belongs. All those officers. You can't do that. Many a times, men have found themselves 6 feet under or behind bars because they reacted on a situation without thinking. They got emotional. They didn't want to put thought behind what they were doing. Okay? None of this is worth it. First of all, I would also ask questions in this incident. What made them roll up on Mr. Nichols? Out of all people, what made them pick him that night and decided to commit that crime? What made them want to do that to anybody to begin with anyway? As an officer, your job is to serve and protect the community in which you live in, not become a domestic terrorist. You have now furthered the gap between civilian and law enforcement officer. And if anybody that knows me knows I love the tactical stuff. I love just, watching military movies. I love listening to military tactics. I love listening and watching SWAT tactics and SWAT training videos and so forth. But this is unbecoming. This is not what somebody does who is sworn to protect. This is the actions of cowards. This further shows that you have an authority complex as to where the power you use to help, you've used to hurt. You further the gap between civilian and law enforcement officer as to where the trust is broken. No longer do we have to worry about being white cops attacking black civilians. Now you have to be concerned about black cops attacking black civilians. I further think going forward, versus cops just being able to be hired on by the police force, the community should be involved and know who's applying for these jobs and be like, hey, we don't trust him. Hey, we don't trust her. Or, hey, this guy or this gal has had multiple incidents within the community. We don't think that'd be a good fit. That's just my opinion on it. But something like this, it has to put a stop to it. We got to put a stop to something like this. And to the single mothers out there, no, it is not completely your fault if your kid goes astray. Yes, we are still responsible for our children's upbringing as to regardless of who they're living with. But once they become an adult, you are not responsible for their actions. But that's my opinion on it, you guys. Tell me what you think. Use the hashtag TalkingWithJess in the comment section. I hope to see you soon. Take care of yourself and each other. Excellence over excuses.